Hey everyone, Mark Edward Wilows here, and welcome once again to Gabbin in the Cabin. You're probably wondering why I am dressed this way. Well, any clues? Who used to wear this hat? You guessed it, Bob Denver from Gilligan's Island. And today we are going to be talking to a very special guest. And if you have not heard of the TV show Gilligan's Island, you must have been living under a rock, because it has been on for about 60 years in reruns. And it started out, as we all remember the theme song, with a 3-hour tour. And today joining me is the lady that lived that 3-hour tour, literally, in the last 30 years. She is the wife of the late, great Bob Denver, who played Gilligan. And Dreama, welcome to the program.
Oh, Mark, it is so nice to be here with you. We're having fun already.
Oh, we certainly are. We certainly are. And I must tell you, it is a pleasure and an honor to have you here. Now, you, of course, wrote a book about all this, which we're going to talk about a little later. But I need to ask you the first question that probably everybody would want to know, including myself. Okay. What was it like being married to Bob Denver?
Well, probably nothing like people think, because they see him as that character, as a bit of a nebbish and, you know, always meaning well, but messing up and all of that. The thing that would surprise people the most is that Bob was, first of all, nothing like Gilligan. He was highly intelligent, extremely well-read, could talk to anybody on any subject with knowledge about what he was talking about. And he was a very private, low-key person. You know, Gilligan's always kind of manic, you know, messing up and trying to get everything fixed. Bob was not like that. He was very, very low-key, very quiet, you know. I mean, he was great. He was wonderful to live with. The thing I loved the most, and anybody who has been around actors know that this is sort of unusual. Bob had what I think of as a healthy ego. He was not egotistical. You know what I mean?
Right.
He didn't need to be catered to or, you know, adoration all the time. He wasn't ever. And I was with him for almost 30 years. So
it was from the life. It was from the life of living on the island.
There you go. There you go. He was just, you know, he was just easygoing and laid back, and you know, he didn't need the extra. You know, I've met people in my lifetime, I'm sure you have too, that they have to have that adoration.
Oh, yes.
And I thought about all of those people during lockdown. I thought, oh, this has got to be really hard on people who need that, you know, need other people and that sort of. So he was just an easy, really easy guy to live with.
Now, how did the two of you meet? I understand you also were an actress doing something. Yes. I believe you guys met doing a stage play or something. Tell us about that.
We did. I was in Florida, actually in Orlando, visiting my family. I had just finished a show with Al Lewis from the Munsters. Do we remember Al?
Yes.
I had just done a show with him, and I went to visit my family, and a friend called me and said they were auditioning over in St. Petersburg for a show called, a Woody Allen show called Play It Again, Sam. And she thought I would be perfect for the part and encouraged me to go audition. So I said, okay, I'll do that. So I went over and auditioned, and I got the part. And I said to the producer, I said, so who's going to be starring in the show? And she said, Bob Denver. And I went, Gilligan? And she said, yeah. And I said, oh, seriously, I'm going to have to kiss and do love scenes with Gilligan? Really? She was like, well, if you want the part, yeah, you're going to have to do that. And I was like, oh no, I want the part. I'll do that. Well, little did I know I'd be kissing and hugging on Gilligan for the next 30 years.
Boy, he must have been a great kisser. Huh?
He was a really good kisser. I remember rehearsals. We had a couple of scenes where, you know, the first time we kiss and all that, and Bob would purposely mess it up, so we'd have to do it over again. And the electricity when we met, really, the chemistry was noticeable. I mean, the other cast members who we were both just meeting commented on it. The reviewers wrote it in reviews of the show on opening night, that the chemistry between Bob Denver and Dreama, my maiden name, was undeniable. So, you know, whatever it was, whether it was love at first sight or I don't know, like at first
It
sight,
just worked. It
it
clicked.
was the real, it was the real deal.
It
Yes.
was the real deal. Now, what was working with Bob like on stage? I mean, naturally, you knew him too from television, Gilligan's Island. Was he a different persona on stage or?
Well, you know what was great about working on stage with him, and we worked on stage for years until we had a son together. Bob got a chance on stage to do something besides Gilligan.
Mhm.
You know, once he did that show, he did Maynard. I'm sure you have
Oh, yes, from the
viewers
Bill
and
Gilligan
listeners
show.
who remember Debbie Gillis and Maynard G. Krebs, and he was the breakout star from that show. So he got his choice of what series he wanted to do after that.
Mhm.
And he chose Gilligan because it was physical comedy and he really wanted to do that. And that show was so popular and ran, as we all know, through the 70s, the 80s, and the 90s. It was
It's
on
still on.
television. All it was against itself a lot of hours. And on stage, he was able to, he got very typecast. And on stage, he was able to get away from that a little bit. One show that I remember us doing together was called Catch Me If You Can.
Mhm.
And it was a mystery. And I was this sweet young thing. And everybody, you know, I'm just, oh, butter wouldn't melt in my mouth. And Bob, you know, seemed like the murderer in the show. And of course, at the end of it, I did it.
Of
and,
course.
but it was so much fun to watch him play that kind of part
Mhm.
as opposed to just everything Gilligan, you know.
Right.
So
Did
and he-
did he ever have any regrets being Gilligan?
no, you know, I get asked that sometimes. And by the time I met him, he was 42 years old.
Mhm.
And I think at the beginning, Gilligan ended when he was like 33. And I think initially, because of the typecasting, because he couldn't stretch as an actor, as they say, you know,
Right.
I think he railed against it a little bit because it was, but I'll tell you what happened in the intervening years up until I met him and after, he got so much snail mail. And then, of course, when the internet started, so much email
Mhm.
telling him how the show, from so many people, I can't even, it's amazing, telling him how Gilligan's Island had in some way saved their lives. Either they were in an abusive relationship, or they had alcoholic parents, or a parent who abused them some way, somehow. And that was their half hour to an hour and a half, depending
Mhm.
on where
Mhm.
they lived and how much it reran after school, that they were able to find this little safe haven. And once Bob started understanding that that little show, what he thought of as a little show, had had such an impact on people in their
And
everyday lives.
it was such a remarkable cast. I mean,
Yeah,
from Bob to the skipper, Marianne, the farm girl, Ginger, the movie star, Mr. and Mrs. Howell, the millionaires. It was
yeah.
so broad that I think everybody could just relate to those characters.
How smart was Sherwood Schwartz? Really
Oh, exactly. Way before his
creating
time.
those characters and writing those
Oh,
scripts
yes.
and sort of hitting, you know, every facet of
Yes.
American life.
Sherwood was way before his time. I don't know if you heard about the joke lately that's been going on with the internet. And of course, exactly what we're doing, Zoom. Remember the Brady Bunch? Everybody in the box.
Exactly.
Sherwood
Yes.
was way ahead of his time. Whoever thought this is it?
I saw a meme on that the other
Yes,
day
yes,
where it was showing, like, I don't know, the president, you know, and the
yes,
cabinet and all that.
yeah,
And it said, you know, Sherwood was. I mean, who would think that now everybody is doing the opening credits to the
sure.
Brady Bunch?
Exactly,
Like,
exactly,
we're
exactly.
all
Now,
doing that.
has Bob ever talked? How did he feel television has changed since Gilligan's Island? Because my
Wow.
opinion, this is my opinion, but I loved television back then. To me, those were shows. That was entertainment. Did
Yeah.
Bob ever say any thoughts what he sees today on TV?
I tell you what, he passed away almost 16 years ago. So it's changed even a lot.
More, yeah.
So much from the time he passed away. But one thing he did talk about when reality TV first started, Survivor, remember?
Yes.
They kept comparing Survivor to Gilligan's Island. And so he was asked to do a lot of interviews about the show Survivor. And he got himself in, I don't want to say he got in trouble, but he got flack and pushback from people when he said, and he was right, there is nothing real about reality TV.
Exactly.
I mean, he said it way back then when,
Exactly.
the first season of Survivor, and people didn't like that. They wanted to think that this was, but I think he's been proven right
Oh,
in the
yes.
intervening years,
Oh, yes. Yes. Did he ever say on Gilligan's Island, what was a day like? A week like? Was it just script, studying, reading, show was shot in one day? Did he ever say how that was done?
Well, they would do the table read on Monday, and the show was shot, as far as I remember him talking, it was shot, there was a different script every week.
Right.
And he said, I was just listening to an interview the other day that he did, that I play on Little Buddy Radio. And he said every week when we would get a new script, we would think it couldn't possibly be sillier than the one the week before. And it always was,
Did he ever
So,
say what his favorite show was?
what his favorite show was?
Yeah. Did he ever
Of Gilligan's Island, or just in general?
No, Gilligan's Island.
Oh,
Favorite
his
episode.
very favorite, I do know the answer to this. He loved the dream sequences
Mhm,
when they started doing those, because everybody got to play something different.
mhm.
And of the dream sequences, his favorite was, I don't know if you remember, but when they worked on the Gunsmoke set,
Yes. Yes.
Gunsmoke,
Yes.
and Bob got to play Marshall Dillon.
Oh, yes. I remember.
And that he loved doing the Western thing, and he loved, getting to get out of the red shirt and the
Yes,
white hat and
yes.
wear something different. And that was always his favorite episode, but he always loved all the dream sequences. Now I have a favorite. Do you guys remember Harold Huckuba,
Yes.
played
Yes.
by Phil Silvers,
Yes.
where
Yes.
they do to be or not to be? Da,
Oh,
da,
yes.
da, da. I love that one.
Yes.
That
You
was
know,
always my favorite.
I myself have been a fan. I mean, I've seen every episode hundreds of times. I can't really think of one episode that I could say, yeah, I loved everyone. They were all wonderful. I mean, very well written and very well acted. That acting was just impeccable. I mean, it was.
What
really,
about the one? Do you remember the ones where they went to the mad scientist? Vito Scotti played him.
Yes.
They went to the island and he switched their voices.
Yes. Yes. I
Now
remember.
that had to be a kick to do that.
Oh, yes, back in the day, exactly. Today it would be hit a button, but back then it was different. Now I need to ask you, Dreama, because everybody asks this question. The opening of Gilligan's Island was where? Filmed in Honolulu, the opening?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
that was just the beginning and the ending, but the show itself was done on a soundstage in Hollywood at CBS, correct?
Actually, the pilot for the series all of it was filmed on the island of Kauai, in
Oh,
Hawaii. That's where you see the opening credits, like when the ship is leaving the marina.
Mhm.
That is a marina in Honolulu. So that was all filmed. What happened was when they showed it to the powers that be, the suits, they weren't happy with the two girls. And originally the script had everybody except for Ginger, Marianne, and the professor. Instead of those three, they had other actors playing a school teacher. Maybe both of the girls were a school teacher and the man was like a high school science teacher or something. So they weren't happy with that, and the network wasn't. So they wanted those parts recast, and that's how we got the movie star, the farm girl, and the professor. They were not in the pilot. And so what happened was they weren't able to use the pilot at all, except for opening credits, because except for a couple of shots from the opening credits, because the castaways were all in the scenes and they had to reshoot everything when they finally picked it up with the three new actors. So
You know, I
That
always
was
remember a line Jim Backus was on Password, you know, the game show, and they asked him something about being rescued from Gilligan's Island, and he says, well, I hope not. We'd all be unemployed.
that's right.
I always remember that. Now, let me ask you, after the show, did Bob keep up with any of the cast?
Oh yeah. Oh,
Mm.
they all did.
And how
Oh,
about you? I understand you were quite close to Dawn Wells.
Dawn and I were really close friends
I
for
met
about.
Dawn many years ago. A wonderful gal, wonderful. Was
Was
so
she
sad.
lovely?
Oh, and beautiful. Oh, Lord.
No,
I
until the day she passed away.
yes,
82 years old, and she still looked like Marianne.
yes, yes,
Gorgeous.
yes.
I kept teasing her that she had a picture of Dorian Gray in
Mhm,
the attic because something was aging and it wasn't her, you know.
mhm,
But she, yeah, after Bob passed away, I mean, we were close before that. Bob was really close to Dawn and Russell. He
mhm,
always considered them his oldest friends. Of
mhm,
course, now we lost Natalie and Jim and Alan in 89, 90, and 91. So we went a lot of years before Bob passed away, and the three of them got very, very close. And then after Bob passed, Dawn and I, we started doing appearances together
mhm,
because I try to, I try to carry on for Bob and represent him well.
mhm.
And so it started to be so much fun for Dawn and me to do appearances, Marianne and Mrs. Gilligan. You know, that
Yes,
was really
yes,
fun.
yes. And
So
I
we
think,
love that.
yeah, it is wonderful how you are keeping Bob's legacy going. And I want to
Thank
talk
you.
about it because you also put it in a book. And
I
I will
did.
tell you, anybody, anyone, listen, folks, anyone that's a fan of Gilligan, Bob Denver, the show, you need this book. It is fantastic. And
Thank you.
I love the title of it. Gilligan's Dreams, The Other Side of the Island. How did you come up with that title?
Well, I always wanted to use the other side of the island because to me, there was the public Bob and the private Bob.
Right.
And so I always wanted to use that title. But of course, you know, the publisher and everybody thought that it would be good to have Gilligan for recognizability,
Mhm.
to have that in the title. So it was suggested we call it Gilligan's wife and Gilligan's son, talking about our autistic son.
Right.
And Bob always called me Dreams. He never called me Dream, or rarely called me Dreama. He always called me Dreams. So I thought if it's Gilligan's Dreams, to me, that's who I am. I'm
Mhm.
Gilligan's Dreams. But it also encompassed, for me, the title, his dreams for the Denver Foundation, his dreams for our autistic son,
Right.
his dreams for our life together.
Which
Uh,
is,
it
yeah,
just,
something
it,
I wanted
it
to
just,
touch on a bit. Because your son, very few people knew that at all.
no.
And I understand you and Bob were basically caregivers to your son, Colin. And you also have the Denver Foundation going today. Tell us a little something about that and what it entails.
Well, now Bob and I had one child together,
Mhm.
and that child was a son who was diagnosed severely autistic. And
Mhm.
actually, they didn't use autistic until later. That
Right,
became,
right.
everything fell under that umbrella. But he was severe when he was 2 years old. And, Bob and I've had people write the website in the past and go, what happened to him? Bob just disappeared. We never saw him again, blah, blah, blah. And what happened was we had a son who needed full-time care. And
Mhm.
without any discussion, without any debate, without any hesitation, Bob and I decided we would do it. And we did. Bob spent the last almost 21 years of his life giving full-time care. And I'm talking big time,
Wow.
full-time, 24/7, 365 care to
Mhm.
our son for over 2 decades. I wrote the book partly because of that. I wanted,
Mhm.
Bob was very private, and I wanted people to know who he was as a person, his
Mhm.
commitment to me, his love and commitment to our son.
Mhm.
He wasn't just this Hollywood figure, this famous face that didn't have integrity and honor. And
Mhm.
I wanted people to know that side of him and the imperfect part of him too, because none of us are perfect.
Mhm.
And he always said to me, years before he got sick and passed away, he would say to me, because he was older than I was, by about 15, 16 years. And he would say to me, look, when I'm gone, because he thought I was a good writer, he said, when I'm gone, if you want to write a book, write it. But if you're going to write it, don't sugarcoat it, tell it like it was, put it out there. So that's what I tried to do. That's what I did do. I've had a lot of people call the book raw. I cover falling in love and getting married and adjusting to each other, and the fact that
what was it like? Because I wrote a children's book, which that's totally different. But what is it like to write a book about your life? I mean, when you sat down and all these thoughts are coming to you, is it sort of like you brought Bob back to life, or what was the feeling for you?
it was very cathartic as it ended up. And one of my really good friends is Homer Hickam. He's a New York Times bestselling author who wrote the book Rocket Boys that was made into the movie October Sky with Jake Gyllenhaal. And Homer was sort of my cheerleader, and he's the one who encouraged me to do it. And you always hear, okay, now to write a memoir, you're going to have to relive everything in your life, good and bad. And the weird thing is, that sounds so simple when you just say it. But when you sit down to write it, you really do. No, you have to go back. You have to smell it and taste it and hear it and feel it. You got to put yourself back in those happy places, which was a little bittersweet, obviously, because Bob is gone. And then when it comes to the tough places, like our son's diagnosis and Bob's diagnosis and everything we went through, his courage at the end of his life, that was all hard. It took me a few years to write it, because I would write so much and then I'd have to step away and go, I can't do this. I ended up on my knees a few times writing this book.
Oh, sure.
Just overwhelming, so so that was, it's a real, I don't know, it's a thing where you really do have to just dig deep and go for it. And at the end of it, when you finally type the end, it's like you take a breath and you realize there was a lot of catharsis in that,
Sure. And the book is really also written from the heart. You're sitting there, that's something which I really enjoy. Sometimes, when people write a book about someone, it's not the actual party involved. So that's why I always think that's just interesting. And I mean, it's got to be, like you said, putting everything into it. What are you hoping people to get out of the book when they purchase it? Is it just to see the other side of Bob, or what are you hoping for?
It's that, yes. But I tell you what, in my life and in my life with Bob, I have gone through a lot of valleys. And I had a brother who passed away at the height of the AIDS epidemic from AIDS. I had, of course, both Bob and I lost our parents. We had a son diagnosed with something serious. A lot of people go through something like that. Obviously, my husband was diagnosed with cancer and passed away. And after he passed away, years after, on the 10-year anniversary, actually, I was at Vanderbilt, and I haven't talked about this publicly, but I was at Vanderbilt in Nashville beginning breast cancer treatment. So I feel like I have so many touchstones in my life, things that people go through daily, that we all struggle through, and I've gone through a lot of things. And after Bob passed away, I went on Amazon, which was basically a bookstore in those days.
Yes.
I went on Amazon looking for any book I could find that would tell me how I could survive. I was terrified. I had a handicapped son that I was responsible for. Bob was gone. It was just me. I was scared to death, and I just wanted to read anything that would tell me I could survive it. And so when I did survive it and started finding my way and got my bearings and could move on, I wanted to write a book that people could identify with, and people, they may not have gone through all those things, but maybe one of those things. And I know how it is when you feel like you can't survive, when you don't even want to survive. And I just wanted to give people hope and let them know that that there's
There's
It
always
was
a
about,
light somewhere at the end of the tunnel.
there is, and you may not see it right away. You may not see it. I mean, for me, it was kind of decades before I really looked at my son's diagnosis and went, now, wait a minute, that is what led me to this place, that led me to that place. And that's why I'm here right now doing what I'm doing. And when that starts making sense and you start realizing that there is a greater purpose in your life that you might not recognize as you go through the different avenues in your life, it's really, I don't want to say thrilling, that's not the right word, but it's a joyous thing to start understanding that. And I thought if I could write something that would help people, you know, be able to see that in real time. See, now I feel like I see it in real time.
Right.
You know, I understand the blessing when it happens, or
Right.
or when a trial comes up, like breast cancer. I remember standing in a mirror going, God, I have no idea what we're going to do with this, but I know we're going to do something positive. And I was able to look at that challenge differently than I had looked at other challenges. Does that make any sense?
Yes, it does. Yes. And I have to tell you, again, the book is just absolutely fabulous. Now tell the folks, where can they get the book? Where can it be purchased? Are you going to do a tour with the book? Will you be visiting cities?
I hope so. Who knows? It's so weird. You know, the last year and a half has been so strange, but I have done a couple of book signings up until this point. Now, as things open up, I certainly hope to do more.
Yes.
I want to thank you for the compliment, because when I wrote the book, I wanted the reader to feel like they were sitting across the table from me having a cup of coffee, and that we were talking. I was telling them my stories. So I really tried to write it in a conversational way to make sure that people felt the friendliness, and I wanted them to feel a connection to me and to what I was saying. The book is available if people would like to get it autographed. It's available. Now, this is really hard to remember, so write it down. bobdenver.com.
Oh.
I think that
I love it. I love it.
Really easy to remember. I have Gilligan's Gift Gallery there, and you can get, I can autograph, all those orders come straight to me, so I can autograph the orders for people when they do it. I also have, I don't know if you know about this one, I'm going to show it to you just real quick, but I have
4 bears in a box. Oh my God. You know, my house is loaded with bears.
Is it really?
Yes, I don't.
Okay.
Well, I don't know if you see this guy behind me. If this deer over here, do you see the deer?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it's all Northwoods look is what I have in my den. I mean, there's black bears throughout. So it's so funny when you showed that book.
Well, it has won like 9 or 10 awards.
Wow.
And it came out last year. On the day we were locked down was the release date. So that was good timing again. But it came out, the last award it won was in December, and it won runner-up for best children's book at the Paris Book Festival.
Oh my
Paris.
goodness. Wow.
Like France.
See, Bob
So
was right. You are a great writer.
Oh, well, I don't, you know, Bob gave me the idea for the book. I'll send you one.
Oh.
I'll have to send you one so you can see the story behind the story. I write it at the end of the children's book, but he gave me a title and he said, I want you to write a children's book. And I went, what would 4 bears be doing in a box? And he looked at me and he went, that's what you got to figure out. And I went, okay. So I did. And I'm very, very happy with it, really proud of it. But that's also in Gilligan's Gift Gallery. And of course, for the ones who haven't seen it, oh, there's a light on it.
I love the cover. I love the cover. Beautiful.
Thank you. I love it too. And Bob, you know, Bob wrote one book in his life. I'm going to show it too, because I have it right here. But this is also
Gilligan, Maynard, and me.
Yeah. And that's
Now,
available.
all these books are available at bobdenver.com.
bobdenver.com. And then, of course, if you don't care about the autograph and you are a Prime person and you just love Amazon, and that's probably most of us, the books are available on Amazon. Now, Bob's book may not be available there. I'm not actually sure, but my 2 books are available there, and they won't be autographed, but you can get them there. Or you can go to your local bookstore, Barnes and Noble or something, and have them order it from Headline Books.
Oh,
and
great.
get it that way.
And before we end, tell me something too. If this is true or not, I heard there might be a Bob Denver museum somewhere on the horizon.
I'm so glad you heard about that because it's so exciting. You know, Bob lived here in Princeton, West Virginia
Mhm.
for the last, oh my gosh, 15 years of his life. He loved it here. He loved the people here. Well, I got a call about 6 months ago from one of our county commissioners who wanted to know if I would be on an advisory board for a 1911 theater that we're renovating.
Wow.
And I said, well, yeah, I would think about doing that. That sounds like fun. And he said, well, here's the kicker. He said, we have an entire room in the theater that we want to make the Bob Denver Museum. You know, the Andy Griffith Museum in Mount Airy.
Yeah, the Lucille Ball Museum, all of those museums.
You know, it's like, I don't know. Bob would love it. First of all, he would love that it's going to be in a theater. He would love that it's going to be in a renovated theater. He would be embarrassed all over the place that they're doing it at all, because he was very humble in that he would go, what are you doing? But it's been fun. I'm going through the things that I have that can be displayed, and the shirt and the hat and all of that. And so we're hoping, oh gosh, we're hoping for the end of 2021, though.
Yes.
You know, we're 6 months into it. So you never know the things that might come up to delay us a bit, but there is going to be a Bob Denver.
You know, I can't tell
museum.
you the hat that I opened up, it hangs on a nail in another room. You would not believe how many people would walk in and they'd say, you have Gilligan's hat.
There you go. I know it's kind of a, you know, I'm just honored that they would do it. And I'm just happy that, oh, and my radio station, Little Buddy Radio, that Bob and I started 17 years ago. He passed away about a year into the radio station. So it's basically been my baby, but we are going to have a Little Buddy Radio satellite station in the museum so that we can do live broadcasts from the theater and from the museum. And so it's going to be great. I'm very excited about it.
You have to come back on the show and tell us all about that, when it's going to be open and everything. And
Would you let me come back?
Yes, I would love to. As I guess Bob would say, it was a dream having you. You were wonderful. And once again, before we wrap, books again, bobdenver.com is where you can find your book and all of Gilligan's books. And
autographed, all of them autographed if you want that.
Yes, and it was a pleasure. All the best to you. And what does the future hold for Dreama before we end?
Well, the museum, and I have written a second Bear book that we are looking at trying to get published in 2022. So I'm going to keep writing. And what I really love and what I've missed for the last year and a half, we all have, is being able to get out and meet the folks. I love being with the people. I just did one down in Roanoke, Virginia, with Kathy Garver and a lot of my friends from classic television. And we were able to, it was like being let out of jail.
Kathy was one of my former guests, a wonderful gal also.
She's wonderful. And we were literally giddy. And no matter what they said, we were hugging, and you know, it just felt so good to feel normal again. It just felt so good. So I really want to do more of that. I would love to come to a town near you and do a book signing. I just really want to set a lot of those up and get out there and get this book out there.
Yes. Well, Dreama, thank you so much for being on the show.
Mark, you guys are awesome. I really enjoyed it.